So we're probably a little bit overdue for this. It's time to do a updated playmat tutorial given our new, 2012-2013 playmat that came out with the original Kickstarter. So today we're going to do a tutorial of the playmat. This replaces a great deal of bookkeeping that you would normally do with a character sheet. It manages your life totals, your status, and everything that you're doing. So to begin with, you'll see many different zones, and the first one we're going to talk about is Essence, where the three Norns are. And Essence is where your bag of runes lives. So if you've got a bag of runes, and we're just going to keep these runes on top of the bag for convenience, but normally they'd be inside the bag, and every time you were asked to weird, which is to reveal your destiny, it's a Viking term for reveal your destiny, you would take, let's say in the case of our pre-generated characters, with a destiny of 2, you would draw 2 runes, and they would go from Essence to in hand, and this would be done at random. The other place that we need to talk about right off the bat is the Void rune. And think of this as the docking station for your blank rune called the Void rune. And every time you do a destiny pull, when you draw runes from your bag and put them into in hand, you will be drawing your Void rune. So even if you have a destiny of 2, you will have the Void rune accompanying it. And whenever you play your rune for, let's say, a cinematic action or an active power, you would place them in the in-play pile. So Metallus, for example, had the healing power bound to the Manaz rune. So if he pushed this rune forward, he would be able to do either a generic action, some sort of cinematic action, or trigger the power of this rune. You would play these runes independently if they are used for different types of effects. Or if you combine the runes to create a rune chain, then what you would do is you would turn the runes that are meant for the meta tags 90 degrees, and that communicates to the entire table of what's happening here. If you did this, it would be a lot less clear. Is this 3 powers? Is this the power with meta tags? The moment you turn these runes, it becomes very clear to everyone at the table what you're doing. Now, the contingency pile is for delayed actions. So let's say you played these on your turn and you said, well, you know what? Actually, so let's say you played these on your turn and you know that one of your friends could potentially be getting harmed, damaged. So you can say, I delay my action. I'll put it into contingency, this healing effect, and I'll state a condition that if my friend gets injured, I would like this power to go off. So when it goes off, if the condition is met, you would move the rune from contingency to in play. And if by the end of the turn the contingency isn't met, just like at the end of every turn, runes from these 3 piles just go back into your bag, and the Void rune goes back to the Void pile. Now, damage is handled a little bit differently in Raganarok than your traditional RPG. Most games, doesn't matter if you're at 100 hit points or down to 1 hit point, you have access to all of your powers. Not so in Ragnarok. Instead, what's going to happen is every time you take a hit, you're going to reach into your bag at random, pull out a rune if you can, and it's going to start traveling through the wounds pile. So this begins with stun. Then there's 3 tracks that go through wounds. You got the white track, the gray track, or the black track, and the runes will end up inexorably in the death pile. Now the reason you have these 3 piles, these 3 paths, is that you can tailor the lethality of your game by choosing one of these 3 paths. If you want to play a very lethal game, you'll choose the white track because it's only 3 hops for the runes to get to death. So if you had 4 damage, after these 3 are resolved, you'd have to bring down another rune. The middle track has 5 hops, and the black track, which I affectionately refer to as the Care Bear track, it has 7 hops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And middle of the road, let's say we go with the gray track, and we're assigning 6 damage. So we would reach into our bag, we would grab a rune at random, and we'd start counting. We'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't go any further than death at this point. Then we say we need to resolve more damage. We reach into the bag, draw another rune at random, and we say 6. This is what 6 damage looks like. Now, if we had to actually take more damage, then since this move can't this rune can't be moved any further, we would assign the damage to this one. So we would say 1, 2, 3 if we took 3 additional damage. If we took 5 additional damage, well then we would say 4. We'd have to reach into our bag again and draw out another rune. So this is what it would look like after taking 6 damage and then 5 damage. Now, healing works in the opposite direction. Whereas runes go down, now healing is going to bring runes up. You begin with, let's say if we had a heal of 3, we would begin with this rune. It would move up into the bag. And then you would choose which one of these two is more important to you. And you would say 2, 3. Okay? So healing would just bring eventually all of the runes up. Now, if we were in a situation where we were like this, we've got a couple of runes that are down here, we've got a couple of runes here, and our bag is empty. Well then, you assign the damage here as much as you can. So let's say we're taking 10 damage from a troll. We'd say 1, 2. We've got no runes in our bag. We have to start assigning damage here. So we would choose this, let's say, because this is our heal. We don't want to lose that one. That'll be the last one. So what do we count? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can never assign damage to the void rune. 9, 10. So this is our situation right now after 10 damage. So the last thing we need to cover are conditions. And so conditions live over here on this side of the mat. So in case something ever happens to your character, you're going to end up placing tokens here to represent the types of conditions that you have. And a lot of these are umbrella conditions. So I might say blind, but if you look it up in the rule book, it just means your senses are impaired. So you either got blinded from a big burst of light, or it's really dark, pitch black, you can't see anything. Okay, so what you would do is you would take a rune that's outside the game. I'm just going to grab one from this bag, and we're going to say, we're going to mark this. We're going to say my character is blinded. So if you put the rune in its upright position, it marks that it's blinded. You wouldn't use any of the runes that's already utilized for your character for something else. You would take something out of game. You can use tokens for this. You can use runes, a 4-sided dice, 6-sided dice, something to just kind of mark this. In the basic game, there's just the conditions are either on or off, but in the full game, there's 4 intensities of every condition, and to mark them, you kind of rotate and flip the rune. So here, this would be intensity 1, this is intensity 2 blind, this would be intensity 3, and intensity 4 would be rotated. And so if someone came by and reduced the blindness on you by 2 intensities, well, you'd say, so you go from 4 to 3, 3 to 2, and that's where you're at. And this is how you would mark everything in terms of all these conditions. And things like, if we look at degeneration, that's also another catch-all condition for you're bleeding out, you're poisoned, some sort of damage over time, like you're on fire. So that's it. That's everything for the playmat.